The reason we have a gravel garden is because we've got heavy clay soil. And a lot of my favorite plants are borderline hardy Mediterranean style plants, which hate clay. This is a real tip for virtually all Mediterranean-y shrubby sort of plants. You cut them really, really hard back in the early spring. As soon as you see new growth, cut off most of the plant, almost everything that grew last year. That renews the plant. It makes it a tidier, neater mound. It's more floriferous, and it's much longer lived because basically the plant is growing over again each year. This is a Potentilla. Here's the leaves, and the flowering stems make skirts all the way around of beautiful, soft pink flowers, which are pretty much finished, but they're soft pink with a dark eye, dark sort of red eye. And I always say it's like strawberries and cream with the strawberries crushed into the middle. Beautiful, beautiful color combination. And it has had a lot of flowers, but they are gone now. Potentilla hopwoodiana.
Oh, that's a Flomo plant for me.
Allium, what used to be called Allium spiralis.
Yeah.
Now Allium senescens montanum. And it does tend, especially when they're young, you get this nice spiral effect in the leaves. But the bigger and older the plant, the more it just becomes a mat. I think it's better as a young plant, really. Look at that. There's a geranium incanum self-sowed into the middle of the Allium senescens.
I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine.
Yeah. This is an incredible plant. This is the first time, last year was the first time I ever grew this. This is sea lavender, Limonium latifolium. I think that's incredible. Why didn't anybody tell me you could get this great lavender cloud with those big, bold leaves? That's bloody amazing. You must grow that.
Yeah.
Or do they normally get so big?
No, I think they probably get slightly, not quite as big as you've got. You see, that's the advantage of having a gravel garden over clay. Yeah.
Oh, yes, maybe. Maybe it's got its roots really down there,
Yeah.
10 inches, 12 inches down. Yeah.
Strangely, because I've got a bit of a thing for sunset shades, the only Limonium I've grown is one of the sort of apricot-y, sunset-y ones. But I was so pleased with how they just germinate like mustard and cress. They're wonderful.
Great. Yeah, and they grow quite fast. I was impressed. Ophiopogon planiscapus nigrescens. I've heard people say this likes it damp. Well, it seems to me it likes it very dry and hot and sunny. It couldn't be happier if it tried. My husband painted eyes on the ruddy ball one morning, and I came out and screeched when I saw them. I had no idea. And here is the last 2 or 3 seeds, five seeds left on Stipa barbata. This is just one of the most beautiful grasses ever. It's very boring all the rest of the year. It's just grass. But for about 3 weeks in the summer, it's incredible. Every breath of air. Look at that. It just floats. Absolutely incredible. Yeah. So beautiful. All the rest of them have fallen. There were loads. So I'm very pleased with that. Stipa barbata. Those are seeds. The seeds are at the base. When they fall, here's one that's come out. Actually, I can see. If I put that against so there's its tail flowing in the wind. And here's the seed there. And the seed is quite heavy. And when they fall, they almost invariably fall straight down and embed themselves immediately in the gravel. I come along and when I'm collecting the seed, I find them in the gravel sticking straight up, and I just pick them out. And what the curly top does is, as the wind blows and as it gets damp and dry, it basically acts like a corkscrew, and it screws the seed further and further down into the ground. It's amazing. It's a design of plant.
Oh, it's genius.
I sell the seeds, but I always keep the feathers because I think they're so beautiful. I have bouquets of Stipa barbata feathers. The Morena has finished. There's 3 flowering spikes. There's one little flower. Morena longifolia. This is from Nepal. And this is a good story. This is the flowers open white. In fact, this is quite true of a lot of flowers. They open white and they turn pink when they've been fertilized. They blush. And Nicotiana mutabilis is exactly the same. Opens white, turns pink.
She's actually blushing because we know what she's been up to.
She wants the bees to know that she's no longer a virgin. Come and get me.
Have you smelt the sap and crushed the leaves, Derry?
Oh, yes, they did. They have an odd smell.
Yeah.
I can, when I've been collecting seed, I've noticed.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think it smells of?
I honestly can't tell you, but I mean, I just like it.
It's very distinctive.
How very diplomatic.
If I go and if I dye my hair or I buy a new outfit and I go and see my nanny and she says, "Oh, that's different," sounds a bit like that.
Yeah, interesting.
Interesting.
That's such a good word. Interesting. Very interesting. Like, I don't like it. I don't know why you do. This might be an interesting plant. This, Eschscholzias, Eschscholzia californica. I have them all over another part of the garden. I have loads of Eschscholzia californica, which have all flowered brilliantly and now died back and left their seeds behind to carry on for next year. Some of the plants will live for next year, but basically have completely finished flowering. And the plants aren't very good the next year, really. I think they're best the first year. But this is a form of Eschscholzia californica called coastal form. This is one plant, 4.5 feet across, maybe 5 feet across, one plant. It's 4 years old. It's been in flower since the beginning of June. And it's not got as much flower on it now, but there's still quite a bloody lot of flower.
Yeah.
Rather, eggy yellow. I mean, yellow with orangey middles. But I'm really impressed with this plant, and it hardly self-sows. It's like it knows it can live longer, so it doesn't bother. There is one seedling over here. There's a seedling in the Zauschneria, and there's one seedling over here next to Stormy Pink. Has good leaves. Look how good those leaves are. Yeah. Beautiful gray cut leaves. And that's it. 4 years of self-sowing, and I've got 3 seedlings. What is going on? It is perfectly easy to grow from seed. I don't have any trouble germinating it. I don't know why it's so reluctant to self-sow, but in a way, it's like it's almost the opposite of an ordinary Eschscholzia, where you expect it to self-sow.
It's such a lovely mat, that Eschscholzia.
It was a stunner a month ago. The whole thing was yellow. It's looking a little tired now, but I mean, what's it had? 3 months of flower? What do you expect?
What a wonderful tapestry of plants, Derry. It is absolutely fabulous. Everywhere you turn the camera, there is so much to look at.
Good. Should we go back inside, or I actually have another gravel garden? I could start again at the beginning, but it's probably too many.
Do you have more gravel gardens?
Yeah. You want more gravel gardens?
Always. I said at the beginning, I love gravel gardens.
Okay, go for it. So there's a gravel path leading to the gravel garden. This isn't really a gravel garden, it's just a path. But a lot of gravelly plants here. Erigeron carvinskianus, lots more salvias, Agastache rupestris. I love that. There's a proper California poppy, which is blooming now. That's just an odd straggler. Round we go. This new gravel garden, it's basically an enormous raised bed. So at this end, we have a 4-foot wall completely filled with new crappy soil, as free draining and poor as I could find, which wasn't, just anything I had left over, really. And then 3 inches of gravel on top, because I realized that I didn't really need 8 inches of gravel here, because there was quite a lot of drainage on a 4-foot high raised bed. At the other end of this gravel garden, it's ground level. There's probably just 3 inches of gravel on the soil, clay. But this end is very deep, but not quite so, not very deep gravel, but very deep drainage. And there's some incredible things here. The best thing of all is that has vanished right here, where you just see quite a lot of gravel. This a month ago or 2 months ago, was about 8 foot by 8 foot of Tropaeolum polyphyllum.
Yeah.
which incredible hardy Chilean tuberous nasturtium. And it is so beautiful. It's just incredible. The foliage is divine. The flowers are divine. It comes up. They're like little sea serpents coming up out of the gravel. And then just a 8-foot mat of flowers and foliage and these winding sea serpenty stems. Just amazing.
Lovely glaucous
And then
foliage.
in July, glaucous foliage. And by the middle of July, it's dead as a doornail. There's nothing left. You can just brush it away. So dead. And all these other things have come through basically since then. It's one of my favorite plants. It is a pain in the butt. I was told to plant it 3 feet deep. I basically built the gravel garden around my tuber. I had one tuber and I planted it. Well, it was probably only 2 feet deep, but it was deep and really deep. And this year we tried to excavate to see if we could get any more. And I did eventually. Down there, they are amazing. Have you grown this?
I have grown it several times, but each time it disappears. Now I know why. I didn't plant it deep enough.
Yeah. Oh, it's incredible. Absolutely incredible. They were really deep, and they have these long, thick things, rhizomy things that connect them to the surface. But I think they must regrow those every year. These long. They're not really stems because the stem, what you see, the stem comes out of the end of these long, thick things. I had no idea until I dug mine up what was going on underground. Anyway, that's what isn't here now. What is here now is a little New Zealand epilobium called glabellum, which I absolutely love. Very tender. Again, it's been in flower for too long. It's getting a bit sad. No water. Oh no, maybe I think this might have had water by accident when I was watering over there. I planted tender climbers, the Ipomea. Can you see that? There's some Ipomea and some lab there. I had to water them, so I think this might have gotten water then. But basically, not much water. A wonderful Erodium. Fran's choice goes on and on and on flowering. And this Scabiosa, I'm very fond of this Scabiosa. It's called argentea, Scabiosa argentea, with the silver foliage. Argent is silver foliage, a little white flowers, very subtle, very soft. I don't know why. It's one of those subtle plants that you could easily walk by and not see, but I really like. Here's another Verbascum roripifolium, young one. It's hard to see because there's just not very much there. There's just flowers hanging in the air.
There's just so many plants. There's so much excitement.
Well, that's me all over. Too many plants. I can't help myself. There's always another one that I want to grow. Scutellaria Texas rose, a little shrubby Scutellaria, deep pink. Loves this hot, dry situation. Oh, it's a shame we haven't got a flower open on this. This dianthus here has long, scrolly stems, not upright at all. Let's see if I can find a flower that has the most extraordinary flower of anything. Dianthus Chumley Fran.
Ah!
Did I show you that last time?
No, the only person I've ever seen growing this plant is Alan Gray.
Alan, it's your plant, Alan. It is so outrageous.
It is.
The most outrageous. We have not got a single flower. God damn it. But it's incredible.
I think I might find a flower for a close-up of that, Derry.
Oh my God. And you get this nice basal foliage, and then you get these ridiculously long stem with just 2 or 3 flowers at the end, but they are the best flowers.
It looks lovely if you get it close to a wall where it can hang over. It looks lovely.
Yes. Oh, I planted mine too far away.
Just saying.
Just saying. Euphorbia rigida.
Yeah.
Lovely foliage. Mine really never blooms. Does yours bloom?
Yeah, it does. It blooms. And I'll tell you what I do. I actually plant any kind of crocus as long as it's pale mauve growing through that silver foliage in spring. It looks lovely.
Wow. Okay. Crocus time. And the euphorbia will hide the crocus leaves afterwards.
Yeah.
Here's a great British native, what I think is incredibly beautiful. It's Eryngium maritimum. I've seen it growing in the dunes. I found this incredibly hard to grow. This took me years to get it going, but now it's finally going. In fact, it's made a baby, so I've now got two. But I just think it's beautiful. There's a flower. It has a blue flower head. Where am I? There's the blue flower head, and these wonderful silvery gray bracts, just forever and ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first couple of years, I don't know whether there's slugs or too much rain or what, but it was very unhappy. But this year, I think it's really liking this summer.
I think you're right.
They're fabulous. There's nothing quite like just seeing them on the beach. We holidayed not a million miles away from Southwold in June, and just walking along the beaches and seeing all these sorts of plants in situ is just lovely.
Yeah, it's wonderful. We've got on the other side of this gravel garden, there's some Glaucium corniculatum, which you could see on the beach. Here's a wonderful Cecily gamiferum, just like silver lace. Evergreen, beautiful foliage all year round. Takes about 3 or 4 years for me anyway to get it to flower. And in fact, I have a huge one over there that is not in flower this year. I don't know how it can be so big and not flowering. So.
I have a friend, Derry, who came to the garden the other day, and he said, you haven't got any Cecily anywhere? I said, no, I haven't. I'm going to grow some seed. I've got to send an order off to Derry Watkins, special plants. And he said, well, I've got 50 plants of that. I said, right, they're mine. So you'll be seeing it at East Ruston next year.
I might buy some seed in. I had no other, or I have friends who grow it. I might be able to get some seed, but at the moment I haven't got seed. Oh, this is interesting. Allium schubertii, which is this incredible explosion firework allium. I planted those over there in what I call Allium Alley over there. And they kind of basically dwindle away. If I plant 6, I'll have 4 the next year. And the next year I might have 2 or 3, and then they gradually vanish. And so I just keep replanting them because I think they're very beautiful. And you know what? It's self-sowed in the gravel. This is where it wants to be. And doesn't that look amazing? Just leaping out of the ground all by itself. Just woo! Yeah. So I expect that one will probably live for years and years.
Yeah. And it's the perfect setting because something like that, it needs the space. It needs to be able to just sit there going, pow.
Yes. It would be far better without the grass. You really don't want the grass there, but I did wonderful. This is a schizacrium. You see that it's beginning to turn purple. When the weather gets cold, it will be purple and blue-gray, half and half. Oh, just striped, basically. Not striped, but get streaks of purple in it.
Oh.
Schizacurium. Here's a different schizacurium. They need the cold weather to turn purple, but it's beginning to turn a little bit purple. This one's prairie blues, and the other one is standing ovation, which the Americans say is better. It's not clear to me that it's better. We'll have to see. There's a nice panicum here. I think that's Panicum shenandoah. Oh. Really purple already. Not a great grower, a bit of a wimp, but beautiful foliage. Verbena Bampton, oh my God, just amazing. Self-sowed, probably a bit too much. Gorgeous, dark, fine foliage, little tiny pale purple flowers. Again, an airy plant. There's not much there. Very hard to photograph, but very impactful when you get a lot of it.
I love that word, impactful. That's exactly what it is, because I tried to describe it to Graham the other day and I couldn't find the words, but impactful is exactly right.
Go Derry.
More Eryngiums, lots more Eryngiums. I love Eryngiums. And the most impactful, of course, Rhomnias. Oh my God. Oh my God. Invasive, hard to establish, glorious. If you're going to be invaded by something, it might as well be something beautiful.
I love fried eggs.
The giant California tree poppy. I mean, they're enormous and flutter in the wind. Just every breeze catches them.
And again, glaucous foliage, indicative of hot weather.
Yeah. And this year, much more upright than usual. Usually they are quite floppy here.
Yeah.
Half the stems would have fallen over by now, whereas this year there's glorying in it. I saw it growing wild in California on a stony hillside, with no soil at all. Absolutely amazing.
Do you cut yours back in the winter, Derry?
Early spring. It's just what I do with the salvias. Early spring, I cut off virtually everything grew last year.
Yeah.
Again, otherwise it overgrows itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, and above that, unbelievable, the acacia. Acacia Liana purpurea. Fabulous foliage, the most beautiful foliage of any tree. Blue-gray, flushed with purple. Fine foliage, absolutely stunning.
Oh.
I have no idea what you're looking at. I'm holding it over my head. It's not reliably hardy. I will lose that the next time we have a hard winter, but it's quite fast growing. And I think it's worth planting, even if those probably only live 3 or 4 years.
And it's just seed as well. It's a pea family, isn't it?
Provided you have reasonably fresh seed, it is easy from seed and it's amazingly quick. A couple of years to flower. I'm not interested in flowers. I don't even like the flowers. It has yellow acacia flowers and on that blue-gray foliage. I think it looks all wrong.
I don't. I love it.
Well, there you go.
There you go. Yeah.
You can have my flowers. I'll send them to you.
Thank you. That'll be a delight in February.
Yeah, in February. Yes. There's the big Cecily gummiferum that isn't flowering for some unknown reason, but it's pretty damn big. A Thordis, a restio from South Africa. This is the only one that does well for me because we're quite alkaline. And all the other restios really want acid soil. In South Africa, they are bog plants. They grow in water. But here, they won't take the wet feed in winter. So I have to grow them in the gravel garden to keep them alive in the winter. They would be happier if they were in a bog in the summer, but they survive here in the gravel garden. And they are it's again very a moire plant. You get those narrow stems moving against each other, and you got the moire patterns. There should be a better word than moire. Is there a word for you get when that's
I'm sure there is, but moire does it.
Yeah. Oh,
water silk. I can't think. It's like watered silk, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
The watermarks you get on silk.
Yes. And when I was a child, there was a dress, I think it was silk that I had that changed color depending on the light. You could move it. And
that's silk. Silk does that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I love that.
It's the way the warp and the weft work together, and one side catches the light in one direction and one in the other. Yes.
And it's something to do with, I think there's tiny ridges in the silk that catch the light from different angles or something like that. I think that's kind of it for here.
This is amazing, Derry. I feel like we've sent you out to fry for like an hour in the sun of your...
It's rather hot out here now.
We appreciate your sacrifice, Derry, because we have loved it so much.
Well, I think, this has been a very, very valuable lesson in some of the plants that we probably going to have to be growing in our gardens in future years as a result of climate changing. And I've written virtually everything that you've spoken about, Derry. I've written down because I am going to overhaul the Mediterranean garden next year. Now I've got weeds in there, and the weeds are agapanthus. They're everywhere. Some plants, they do become a weed if you're not careful. And with us, agapanthus is one of them.
So, Alan, you are going to use today's gravel garden tour as a bit of inspiration for your Mediterranean garden overhaul.
Well, yes, I am. And there's, so many things that Derry's mentioned today are so important, I think. Peony Cambacedesii, or whatever it says, however you say it.
Yeah.
It's a plant I hadn't thought of growing in the gravel garden, but I will now. Going through the list, the fact that you can double chop perovskias, which I think are now salvias, actually, in botanist terms, but I think you can double chop them to get them to behave how they would normally. That's an important tip, I think. All these kind of things, like Iochroma, for instance, don't put it out as a youngster because you'll lose it. Plant it out when it's woody. I've grown the red form from seed this year, and I'm going to have to.
I think that's more tender, the red form.
Oh, is it?
Think.
Well,
I haven't tried it outside, but I understand when somebody gave it to me a few years ago, she said it was tender.
Right. Well, let's prove them wrong, Derry.
Yes, let's prove them wrong. It doesn't look to me. My plants are quite big now. They don't look very woody.
Well, that mine are not woody because they're young.
Right.
think this whole little tour of Derry's gravel garden is the future way our gardening is going to go. Especially if you want to have plants that flower well for you. I mean, plants like, we're going to have to forget the traditional big florist delphiniums and phloxes and all those kind of plants unless we have unlimited supplies of water to distribute. But I think, we're going to need the water for other things. And so we have to be mindful of the fact that we are now having to garden responsibly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I was really enjoying a shot of your foot, but I'm glad you
I suddenly realized you didn't want to see my foot.
I mean, it really looks wonderful, and it's so inspiring. And I do need to overhaul various plants in my garden, and you've given me so much inspiration, Derry. You always do. I mean, everyone needs to go and follow your Instagram and your Twitter, because you're always sharing interesting plants. And my FLOMO, actually, to move on to the FLOMO section, that fear of missing out you get about a flower or a plant that you want to grow, I immediately saw it, and I can see it right now, that absolutely wonderful Erythrina crista-galli, which you shared, I think probably pre-bleaching. You shared a photo on your Instagram when it was just looking so red and luscious and lustrous and lovely. And you're right, sexiest of flowers.
When that's fine, I can't believe it.
Absolutely fabulous. I think it will probably be a next garden plant. I'm not sure I'm going to manage any great success with it in my current tiny garden, but it's on the wish list for a future plot.
I'll tell you what, Thunder, I have it planted outside on the wall in the tea garden. I also have one in a pot. I also have another one in a pot, kind of like mare and a spare. And the reason I have those things in pots is because I'm of the instinct, as Derry said, not to plant them out too soon. Don't plant out youngsters, they'll die, and then you'll lose heart and you won't ever grow it again. So I'm keeping them until they get big enough. So providing I've still got them, I might share one with you.
And then that can go in the downstairs toilet with a man of hot Grahamii over winter. Peter will be so pleased. Derry, do you have any FLOMO at the moment? Is there anything that you wish you could get your hands on?
It's not a gravel plant, but there's an American woodland plant called Spigelia marylandica.
Yeah,
which I do have one of, but it is so weird and beautiful. The flowers are red and green, and they're very strong. They're not big flowers, but very strong contrast between the red and the green in the flower itself. And I'm really in love with it. I want to have a whole lot. I've been trying to make mine set seed.
I think I may have got that in a pot.
You have it in a pot. Has yours ever made any seed?
No, I mean, this is my first year with it. And I put it in a pot, and I've been growing it in shade deliberately.
Yes.
Because I wondered whether it would not be hardy with me. I don't know. So
I think it'll be very hardy.
Oh, good.
I saw it growing in the woods in Pennsylvania. I mean, it's colder than here.
Yeah. But sometimes, Derry, remember that Pennsylvania is under snow, which is relatively dry, and they don't have the wet roots that probably we have in our winters.
That's true. My one plant is now 3 years old, hasn't minded my wet winters. I would plant it in the ground, or at least maybe next spring plant it in the ground.
Yeah, I think that's another lesson, everybody. Don't plant any of these things in the autumn. Always wait until the spring.
Except for hardy things, when you really do want to plant them in the autumn.
Yeah.
So the non water always go long.
Well, I think in all honesty, I mean, things like trees and shrubs you should plant in the autumn when hopefully there will be rain and the soil is still warm enough for the roots to make some kind of little growth or start to grow before the onset of winter. But any new plant, whether it be desert, whether it be Mediterranean, whether it be terrestrial or whatever, wherever it comes from, remember the first year you will need to keep an eye on it and make sure that it gets irrigation.
I'm still stuck on the idea of that Spigelia just being in a woodland in Pennsylvania. I can't imagine seeing such a spectacular plant, like just walking through a woodland and there it is with its red and its green being just utterly crazy. I would love to see that in the wild. What an amazing thing.
Exactly. It stops me in my tracks. And I spent quite a lot of time trying to find it in this country. Yeah.
Right then, Alan, where are you at with your Flomo? You certainly have plenty of inspiration.
Well, my Flomo is going to be, well, I've told you about it before off the air, shall we say, is a fig, a ficus, Jolly Tiger. And I must say, I think I have found it because I have done a deal with one Mr. Matthew Pottage. And I think he's offered to grow it for what is fig to Jolly Tiger? It's a very, very variegated fig, yellow and green. The leaves are enormous, like an ordinary fig, yellow and green, and the fruit is also variegated, yellow and green. And it's just in short supply. I know two people that have it, and Matthew has offered to grow me one as a cutting. But there is a deal attached to this, and the deal is that I have to go to Wisley so that he can show me Wisley to get my fig, and that. That I readily agreed to because I just love the excuse of going down to and talking plants with somebody as knowledgeable as him. So it's that, but it's also my Flomo has to be an awful lot of different plants that Derry's been talking about because, you know, Erodium maritimum, for instance, is something I've had and lost. And, you know, Cecily gumniferum, we talked about that, but I've got 50 plants coming. You know, so many of these plants it was just brilliant, Derry. Thank you. That's all I'm going to say because I'm replanting the Mediterranean garden, but not until next spring, on your advice. Oreganum or Oreganum, depending on how you say it, where you come from. Yeah, I mean that Kent Beauty took me back years because I used to grow that. I'd forgotten about it, and it's just such a lovely thing. And you know those beautiful bracts go on forever. So yeah, love it. There's my Flomo. Yeah, it's all of everything.
Yeah, well, that's Derry, isn't it? All of everything. We have had a wonderful time, Derry. I'm almost glad that we didn't have time for the gravel garden last time, so that we could just dive in. It has been so perfect to have really a look around.
Go for it. Yeah. Right.
And so pertinent at the time when we find ourselves so short of water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you very much. You are always welcome back. We'd have you every week, Derry, if we could.
Oh, it's a deal. I'm there. I'm waiting for you. When the call comes. Okay.
Until next time, have a wonderful time in that fabulous garden of yours, and happy gardening, everybody.
Happy gardening, everybody. It's just seed as well. It's a pea family, isn't it? Hello?
I don't want to keep the seed too long, I don't think.
We lost you for a second, Derry, so you might need to just re-say that.
Plants, they do become a weed if you're not careful. And with us, agapanthus is one of them.
Oh.
That's the noise most people make when Alan starts talking about agapanthus being a weed. I think we might have slightly lost your signal, Derry. I don't know if you can wander closer back to where you had signal before. Just hear these sort of little chirrups.
It sounds like a child playing the piano.
Hello.
Well, it's funny. I lost you a minute ago, but I've got you again here.
We can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Your picture hasn't changed for a while. Oh, I think you're coming back.